Sylvester Stallone is remembered as the face of Rocky and Rambo, but behind the triumphs and red carpet lights, his career was shaped by rivalries few ever speak of. From a young actor nearly thrown off a set over a simple lunch, to a brotherhood broken by money, and a playful feud with Arnold Schwarzenegger that turned into a battle for Hollywood's crown. These hidden clashes reveal the cost of fame. How did small sparks ignite decades of tension? Let's uncover Stallone's untold rivalries. In 1974, before the name Sylvester Stallone meant anything in Hollywood, he was simply another struggling actor desperate for a chance. He co-wrote The Lords of Flatbush, drawing from his own youth in New York, and secured the role of Stanley Rosiello. For Stallone, this film was more than work. It was personal, a doorway to prove himself as a leading man. Sharing the cast was Richard Gere, a newcomer from a very different world. Gere was trained in theater, precise, calculated, and methodical. Stallone, in contrast, acted from instinct, raw, direct, sometimes unpredictable. On a set with a shoestring budget and relentless pressure, their clashing styles created tension that grew heavier with every scene. Then came the moment that turned tension into rupture. 4 actors squeezed into a car, rehearsing lines after lunch. Gere was eating a sandwich loaded with mustard when a drop fell onto Stallone's pants. A trivial accident, but in that fragile environment, it was like striking a match in a dry field. Stallone reacted instantly, pushing Gere out of the car. Silence followed, the crew stunned, unsure if they had just witnessed a scene or a real confrontation. The producers chose Stallone. Gere was dismissed, officially for creative differences, though everyone knew the truth. What should have been a forgettable accident became the seed of a long-standing grudge. 2 future icons, divided not by ambition alone, but by a mustard stain that symbolized the fragile pride of young men fighting for a place in Hollywood. By the late 1980s, Sylvester Stallone and Bruce Willis were part of the same elite circle. Stallone carried Rocky and Rambo, while Willis redefined action cinema with Die Hard. They were not only colleagues but companions, faces of an era when larger-than-life heroes ruled Hollywood. Their bond seemed rooted in respect, a shared pride in shaping the genre. That spirit carried into The Expendables, Stallone's passion project. It was not just another action film. It was a tribute to the Golden Age, a celebration of camaraderie. Willis joined as Mr. Church, a role that added authority, and for a while it felt like the old guard had found a second home. The first 2 films triumphed, rekindling nostalgia for audiences worldwide. But when preparations for The Expendables 3 began, everything shifted. Willis's team demanded $4 million for 4 days of work, $1 million per day, without compromise. In an industry used to excess, it was not unheard of. Yet for Stallone, the demand cut deeper. To him, The Expendables was built on loyalty, on friendship over paychecks. The figure felt like a dismissal of everything the project represented. Stallone stood firm. Willis was out, and Harrison Ford stepped in with enthusiasm and professionalism. But Stallone did not stop there. He publicly labeled Willis greedy and lazy, words rarely spoken so openly in Hollywood. The fallout was immediate. A bond once framed by brotherhood collapsed under the weight of money, leaving behind a lesson. Even legends can part ways when values no longer align. In the late 1980s, Stallone and Eddie Murphy stood at the very peak of Hollywood. Stallone embodied grit and determination through Rocky and Rambo, while Murphy filled theaters with laughter in Beverly Hills Cop and coming to America. Beyond the cameras, they shared a genuine connection. At parties, they joked like brothers, their bond rare in an industry often built on competition and facades. But in 1987, during the production of Beverly Hills Cop 2, whispers began. Brigitte Nielsen, Stallone's wife at the time, joined the cast in a supporting role. On set, colleagues noticed her frequent laughter at Murphy's jokes, the way conversations stretched longer than expected. Soon rumors spiraled, suggesting something more than friendship. In Hollywood, perception often matters more than proof. For Stallone, the constant headlines and innuendo were unbearable. Each magazine cover, each sly remark chipped away at his trust. He chose not to send lawyers or publicists. Instead, he reached for the phone and called Murphy directly. The conversation was blunt, unfiltered. "What is going on between you and Brigitte?" Murphy denied everything, insisting nothing improper had taken place. Yet the damage was done. Once doubt takes root, words cannot always heal. The friendship slowly dissolved. They avoided each other at events, the warmth replaced with silence. The media fueled comparisons, turning former allies into reluctant rivals. What had begun as one of Hollywood's most authentic bonds became another casualty of broken trust. Proof that even the brightest friendships can fade when shadows of rumor take hold. By 1982, Stallone was ready to prove he was more than just the underdog who wrote and starred in Rocky. His next character, John Rambo in First Blood, was darker, wounded, and deeply human. The film carried weight. It spoke to the struggles of Vietnam veterans, to trauma and alienation. Stallone believed in that vision, and he intended to protect it. Enter Kirk Douglas, a Hollywood legend whose name carried decades of prestige. Cast as Colonel Trotman, Rambo's mentor, Douglas seemed a perfect choice. But from the moment he joined, he pushed for sweeping changes. He wanted the film to follow the novel's ending, where Trotman kills Rambo. To Douglas, it was powerful, dramatic, and a role-defining moment. For Stallone, it was the end of everything he had built. No sequels, no legacy, only a bleak finale. The clash was more than creative differences. It was old Hollywood versus new. Douglas brought rewrites, questioned lines, and often referred to himself in the third person, leaving tension hanging over late-night meetings. Stallone, still fighting to prove his creative voice, resisted. The standoff grew unbearable. Finally, director Ted Kotcheff drew a line: accept the script or leave. Douglas walked. In his place came Richard Gere, stepping in at the last minute. His calm authority reshaped Troutman into a steady mentor, giving balance to Rambo's turmoil. The film's ending offered hope, and with it, the foundation for an entire franchise. For Stallone, the lesson was clear. Sometimes protecting your vision means standing firm, even against legends. Few rivalries in Hollywood carried the spectacle of Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It began in 1977 at the Golden Globes. Stallone, fresh from the miracle success of Rocky, hoped for recognition as both writer and actor. But instead of triumph, he endured disappointment. His film lost every category. Across the ballroom, Arnold, still new in town, took home the award for New Star of the Year. According to Stallone, Arnold laughed with each snub, and in anger Stallone hurled flowers at him. A petty moment, perhaps, but it planted the seed of a legendary competition. Through the 1980s, their rivalry became an arms race. Stallone pushed Rocky II, the III, IV, and launched First Blood, making Rambo a cultural icon. Arnold responded with Conan the Barbarian, The Terminator, Predator, each designed to match or surpass Stallone's dominance. They mocked each other on screen, from Arnold sneering at a Rambo poster in Twins to Stallone parodying Arnold in Tango and Cash. Audiences loved the spectacle. Studios fueled it further. Then came the ultimate prank. When a dreadful script called "Stop" or "My Mom Will Shoot" circulated, Arnold pretended he wanted the role. Stallone, eager to beat his rival, rushed to grab it. The film bombed spectacularly, leaving Stallone humiliated, while Arnold laughed from a distance. Ironically, Arnold soon stumbled himself with Junior, proving even titans could misstep. Years later, the rivalry softened. They appeared together, joking about old battles. Yet their competition left something lasting. The very movies that defined an era of action cinema. Looking back, it is almost ironic how these rivalries, so bitter in the moment, became the very fire that pushed Stallone's career forward. With Richard Gere, a clash over mustard revealed the fragile pride of young actors fighting for respect. With Bruce Willis, a demand for money fractured the brotherhood Stallone had hoped to build. With Eddie Murphy, whispers of scandal tore apart a friendship that once seemed unshakable. With Kirk Douglas, the weight of old Hollywood nearly crushed his vision. And with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the rivalry turned into a decade-long spectacle that defined action cinema itself. Each episode might have destroyed a lesser man, but Stallone transformed the conflict into momentum. The tension with Gere hardened his resolve to stand his ground on set. The disappointment with Willis reminded him that not everyone shared his passion. The loss of Murphy as a friend showed him the cost of rumor, and the showdown with Douglas proved that even legends could be challenged if the story demanded it. Most of all, the rivalry with Arnold gave audiences an unforgettable duel. Stallone and Schwarzenegger raised the bar with every release, pushing each other toward classics that may never have existed without that competitive fire. At its peak, these rivalries seemed like open wounds. But in time, they became scars that told a larger truth. In Hollywood, conflict is not always destruction. Sometimes it is the very thing that carves legacy. In the end, Sylvester Stallone's journey through rivalries is less about bitterness and more about the fragile humanity beneath fame. Each conflict told its own story. A sandwich accident with Richard Gere became a lifelong grudge. A contract dispute with Bruce Willis revealed how money can fracture brotherhood. Whispers surrounding Eddie Murphy exposed the power of rumor to destroy trust. A battle of wills with Kirk Douglas showed how protecting one's vision sometimes means defying legends. And the long duel with Arnold Schwarzenegger proved that competition, even when petty, can shape an entire generation of cinema. For Stallone, these rivalries were never just about anger. They were lessons about trust, about pride, about the costs and rewards of standing firm. They revealed how even the strongest men on screen can be vulnerable when respect, loyalty, or legacy are on the line. Without them, Stallone might not have pushed as hard, fought as fiercely, or left behind films that still echo across decades. Perhaps that is the deeper truth. Conflict can wound, but it can also sharpen ambition. Out of fractured friendships and broken alliances came performances, characters, and stories that defined an era. Stallone's rivalries remind us that greatness is rarely born in harmony. It is often forged in fire. What do you think? Were these rivalries a burden, or the fuel that made Stallone who he is? Share your thoughts in the comments, And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we continue uncovering the untold stories of Hollywood's greatest legends.